Hello everyone. So in this lecture video, I am going to be talking about the specific competency for sustainability, which is competency 2, which is analyze the interconnections among the physical, biological, and environmental systems here in this case. All right. Specifically for this set of two lecture videos, I'm going to be talking about, in this case, ecology, okay, the scientific method, role of chemistry, physics, biology, geology, and microbial sciences. And then in a later week, in a later set of lecture videos, we will be talking more about the science and its relation to environmental problems facing society. Okay, so very, very important here. Now, just to give you an overview, these lecture videos are going to be very brief, okay, and are meant to be highly focused. And the purpose behind these videos is to make connections behind hopefully all of this complex portions in this competency. Okay, just to give you a warning, the lecture slides, the PowerPoint slides are much more extensive, and the textbook pages, the assigned readings in the textbook or websites are definitely going to be much more in depth than this lecture videos. Okay, you are still responsible for viewing this lecture video as well as making sure that you go through your PowerPoint slides. All right, you should always use the textbook as a last resort, but again, please understand that this is going to be brief and it's not going to cover everything in detail that is presented in the PowerPoint slides. All right, so let's go right away to it. So I'm going to talk about the science of ecology and the role of different sciences, and obviously the scientific method. All right, so very, very important here. So what is ecology? So ecology, ladies and gentlemen, is the study of living systems, okay, of the interaction between living organisms, me and you and the deer, you and the dog, okay, as well as the interaction between the living organisms and their environment. So that means, say, you and air, and the air, you and the soil, okay. So that is the science of ecology in a nutshell, right? And in this case, ecology can actually be shown as a hierarchy, right? So, by the way, and hierarchy means to say the arrangement, okay, of organizational, in this case, complexity in this case. So, in this image to your left, okay, so you actually have the least complex, okay, and then you have the most complex on the bottom. And in ecological hierarchy, okay, so one living organism is called an individual. So in this case, one fish is called an individual, and then multiple individuals makes up a population, all right? And then the community in this case is, multiple living organisms living together. So one type of living system, all right? Multiple types of living system, one living system. In this case, if you count, you actually have 7 living organisms here. So that's the community at large. So FYI, the living portions in an ecosystem or an ecological system is called the biotic component. Biotic meaning living systems. When we hit ecosystem here, what is different between these 3 tiers and this tier? You can see there's a rock and you can see there's a water. So when we talk about ecosystem, now we're talking about the addition of non-living components. Okay, and the non-living components are actually called abiotic. All right, so the combination, all right, of living things and non-living things living together in one area is called an ecosystem. All right, so very, very important here. Now, what is a biome? A biome, in this case, are repeating, okay, are large repeating areas in which living and non-living things live together, right? An example of biome is a rainforest, right? So that if you've ever seen like pictures of the Amazon, which is currently burning right now, or pictures of maybe of Malaysia, okay, so that's a rainforest biome. In Wisconsin specifically, we actually have, in this case, coniferous, okay, forests, which is a type of, in this case, a biome, and coniferous forest basically means to say that they're made up of conifers. Conifers we're talking, right? So conifers are any trees that actually makes up cones. Okay, so in this case, evergreens are actually coniferous forests, so like cedar, right, pine, oak. I'm not oak, I'm sorry. All right, so that's actually like white pine, right? So those are actually in this case a type of biome as well, right? And when we talk about biosphere, all right, which is in the lowest part of this ecological hierarchy here, we're talking about the whole planet of Earth. So the biosphere is collectively the whole planet, because the whole planet is made up of non-living and living things living together. So that's why it's called the biosphere, right? You can actually, in this case, the biosphere can actually be divided into 4 different components, all right? Obviously, biosphere is all life, but you also have hydrosphere, which is all water without the living things. Lithosphere, which is actually the Earth's crust, soil. That's actually the lithosphere. And the atmosphere, which is the gases, which like so. And FYI, there's actually multiple layers of the atmosphere. You have troposphere, okay, so stratosphere, okay, so just to give you like an idea in this case. And this is why we need to have an understanding, a little bit of an understanding, not an in-depth understanding of multiple sciences when we talk about ecology and when we talk about sustainability, period, right? Why do we need physics? Okay, why do we need biology? Why do we need chemistry? Why do we need geology? Well, the reason why we need, in this case, biology should be obvious, is because biology is concerned about the study of living things. And we and plants and other animals are, in this case, living organisms. We are different in multiple regards, and therefore we, like the processes that makes us alive and helps us keep us alive needs to be studied, and therefore that's in the realm of biology. Okay, very, very important here. Now, why do we need to study geology? Well, geology is about the physical, in this case, this physical components of the earth. And in this case, when we talk about physical, we're talking about non-living things. So therefore, the soil, the water, right? So those are all, FYI, and even in some regards, the atmosphere are actually in the realm of geology. Okay, so we always think about geology as just rocks, but it's actually more than that. All right, so obviously we need to know the nature of soil. We need to know the nature of water and how actually water moves between continents and in the streams, okay, or in the trade winds, okay, especially in the olden days. So that is in the realm of, in this case, geology. So there are 2 sciences that are not shown here, and the 2 sciences that is not shown here, ladies and gentlemen, is actually physics and chemistry, right? And I'm just going to show you, like, maybe I'm just going to jump a little bit here. Now, why do we study physics and chemistry? Well, physics is the study of energy. And so when we interact, when we as living system interact with each other, when I eat something, when I walk outside, when sunlight hits me in the face, those are all about energy transfer, right? Heat being transferred from the sun to my skin. When I eat food, how do I convert like that actual, like in this case, the conversion of what I eat into energy is actually, again, in the realm of physics. All right, so something very, very important here. The other thing, why do we study chemistry? Well, chemistry is the study of matter. And it just so happens that the transfer of energy in the planet Earth, and in fact, more than likely throughout the whole universe, is through the interaction of different particles of matter. And when we're talking about particles of matter, we're talking about, obviously, if you've ever taken high school chemistry, I hope you have, we're actually talking about the table of the elements, all 118, okay? Table of elements, we're talking about carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, so on and so forth, okay? And energy is actually transferred, is actually stored in forms of bonds between matter. The release of energy in living systems, primarily speaking, is actually when, and even between 2 non-living systems, is actually when bonds break. So when bonds break, we actually have a release of energy, and that is actually in the realm of chemistry. Okay, so that is actually why we need to study multiple sciences. Under biology, which is the study of living systems, we actually have the study of microbiology, which is the study of small creatures, small organisms that is invisible to the naked eye but can be seen through a microscope. Okay, and the reason why we need to study that is decomposers, okay, and are actually small creatures that we cannot see with the naked eye. Things that are in water. Why do we make sure that our water is purified? Well, it's because of little microbes, okay, and some microbes might be harmful to us. Okay, so that is one of the reasons why we need to study microbiology specifically. But in a more useful context, just know that small living creatures that actually help us be degraded when we die into smaller particles when we become truly part of the earth again, that is actually, in this case, in the field of microbiology. Another important thing about microbiology is at least half of the oxygen, in this case production in the planet Earth, is actually done by small microscopic microorganisms called phytoplanktons. All right, so obviously if you want to keep the oxygen levels in the Earth at a very, very livable range, we definitely need to be concerned about the science of microbiology. Okay, so where does all of this knowledge in chemistry, biology, physics, geology, microbiology come from? That all of those bodies of all of the knowledge that we know about the sciences, and when we talk about the sciences, we're talking about the 5 sciences I just talked about previously, is actually in this case performed to the scientific method. How do we know that there's actually atoms? How do we know that there's actually electrons and protons and neutrons? Okay, this is actually undertaken by the scientific method. Now you use the scientific method every day, right? So I'm going to give you a very, very, very simple example, right? Like in this case, you might be driving in the freeway, right? Maybe you're driving north to Green Bay from Sheboygan on 43. And you noticed now you notice that there's a backlog of cars on the freeway. So there's a slow traffic going to Green Bay. So you make an assumption right away. So those are observations. What you've noticed happening, like the slowdown in traffic, those are called observations. Okay? So we ask a question, so what must be causing, the primary question for us, since we're driving to Green Bay, maybe we're trying to watch our beloved Packers, is, I need to get to Green Bay by a decent time so I can tailgate and actually watch, Aaron Rodgers win, whatever, a preseason game, right? What happens then is we form a hypothesis where we say, well, I bet you that there is a car accident, a few miles down the road. Now, obviously, you're not cheating here. You're not using Google to actually tell you there's an accident. You're just guessing. That guess of what's causing that observation that you make, and observation, by the way, is actually also called phenomenon, is called a hypothesis, right? And so as you drive down the road, you actually do not crash a different car to test your hypothesis. What you do is you just observe again, and then you say, and then a few miles down the road, you find out that there is actually a broken down semi-trailer truck. So obviously in this case, when you analyze your results, your hypothesis was incorrect, right? It wasn't an accident, it was a broken down semi-trailer truck. All right. So that is actually how you would do the scientific method day to day. Now, obviously in science, we don't do that kind of quick observation, just wait for things to happen. We actually create conditions in which we can actually see if a specific cause creates a certain effect. Okay, an example would be in the olden days was what actually causes a disease, like in this case a microbial disease. And obviously we now know that some infections are caused by bacteria. Well, the way that you actually do this is you say, oh, this microorganism, okay, creates this specific disease. So what you do is you inject this microorganism in a poor, helpless creature like maybe a mouse, and you actually see if the disease that the actual mouse contracts is similar to your hypothesis. Okay, and so that is a little bit more different in terms of science. please make sure to watch the next video to complete this lecture.